Hello, I'm FirePug. If you guys are new, welcome to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about data mining, where the future data mining is going, and if it will even be legal in the future. This actually is quite a complicated topic with a lot of gray area. And data mining is kind of a newer thing. It doesn't have a huge history, and hasn't really had a huge effect on the gaming industry yet. Now, since I'm an Apex Legends news channel, I'm going to base this all from the perspective of us Apex Legends players, but this really can't apply to any video game out there. And the whole problem with this topic is the general idea of data mining can either be seen as okay or not okay. And trying to draw a clear line between what is okay and isn't okay can be very difficult. Basically, data mining is taking something within the files of a video game that isn't currently released yet. So some feature of a video game that a data miner found, so they went into the files of the game, saw what it was before it actually went live to the public. They pulled that out to see what it is, see what it looks like, see what it means, whatever. I'm not personally a data miner, so I don't know exactly how all this works or what computer programs they use. But the general idea is they get this directly from the game's files, and it's something that hasn't been released to all players yet. A very basic example of this would be someone leaking a skin that was put in during an update, but hasn't gone live yet until maybe a couple weeks later where it finally comes out in the store. During that time period when it's in the files but not released in the store yet, a data miner can go find that, pull it out, render it in Blender or whatever, and then show it to their community. It's a very basic example, and if you want my personal opinion, I think that's totally fine. And this is actually a very common thing for data miners to do. For an example, Shrugtall over on Twitter, amazing data miner, he does this all the time. He finds interesting and cool recolors, and people really appreciate being able to see what recolors are coming out beforehand. The problem is, Apex Legends doesn't like to give us recolors and like to reuse them from 2 years ago. But you guys get the point. This was just one small example. But let's say that thing that's being leaked is the entire next legend or next character of a video game. For an example, in a mid-season patch of Season 8, if a data miner were to find Valk and all of her abilities already in the files ready to go for the next season, and they were to pull that out and then go show everyone who Valk was, what her abilities were, and even some little bits of rendered animation of her using her abilities, that can be a totally different story. But unfortunately, there isn't much of a difference between the two, between leaking a skin or leaking a whole character and all their abilities. It's really the same exact thing. And if you try to draw a line between those, it gets really iffy. Because you can't really say, oh, pulling out skins or something like that, that's totally fine, but leaking a next character, that's not okay. If you were to do that, there'd be a whole bunch of rules that have to go up, it'd be super complicated, and there'd have to be a rule for every single little thing that a data miner could possibly leak. So unfortunately, it comes down to, do we let people continue to data mine or do we not let them data mine? And for our example, since we're Apex Legends fans over here, it's going to be between EA and Respawn and the data miners in their community. And at what point does EA get fed up with all their content being released before they intended it to and decide to shut it all down? Say a new season of Apex Legends is coming up and there's this new map rumored. What if a data miner went in and found it, pulled out the mini-map, pulled out a bunch of rendered POI locations, and showed everybody what the map is going to look like? You might think, oh, that's super cool, look at this, I'm so excited for the next season. Which is a normal response to seeing that. It gets you really excited seeing a whole new leak. But obviously that's not going to be what EA or Respawn is thinking. EA and Respawn sees their surprise of a brand new map as totally ruined. The release of the new map now isn't what they wanted it to be. This could possibly even give other competitors a little bit of an edge, like maybe Call of Duty devs see what the new map looks like and you say, oh, they made a couple mistakes here. What if we implement those mistakes, fix those, and put it on our map? Not necessarily what would actually happen, but I'm just saying that technically could, and you can see how this can get pretty legal and about all money really, really fast. And thinking about it that way, EA could definitely say, no, you're not allowed to leak this, and it's illegal to pull stuff out of our files and show it to your community before we want to show it to everyone. It's a totally understandable thing since EA, Respawn, owns what's in the files. It's their game, their copyrighted game, and They could definitely say, no, you can't touch this until we decide to release it to the public. Doing that beforehand is illegal. And this is where, again, it gets complicated. Because just like I said before, leaking that one little skin isn't that big of a deal. It's not going to have an effect on literally anything. And personally, myself, I enjoy those little leaks. Like, ooh, look at this new Revenant recolor comes out. Good thing I have that skin. This is awesome. But my other opinion is, when it comes to those really big leaks, especially stuff that's going to be released before a season, I'm really not a fan of it. It ruins the hype for me. Sure, it gets me really excited to see the leak and I really want to see the leak. But at the same time, I imagine to myself, what if before Season 3, before I watched the launch trailer, I already knew what the new map was going to look like. I've already seen pictures of its rendered POIs. And in the launch trailer, when the ship finally comes out of the clouds and World's Edge is there right before us, I already knew exactly what it would look like. It wouldn't be as big of a shock. I don't think I'd enjoy the trailer more, but in that moment, I don't think I'd realize that I'm not enjoying it as much as I could. But that's just my personal opinion, and honestly, data mining doesn't really have that big of an effect on things in most circumstances. But what it's always going to come down to is the owner of that game, in our case Ian Respawn, want a data miner pulling that stuff out and showing you before they want to show you. And that's why I think data mining, my personal opinion, I think data mining will eventually not be allowed by these bigger companies, simply because they do own what they put in the files, and they don't want data miners showing that to people before they want to show it to people. And while some things seems like it's okay to data mine, some things like no, you shouldn't put that out, there's a huge gray area in between there, and there's really no spot to draw a clear line. So I think what the companies are going to have to do is to just say no to all of it in general, which I personally unfortunately see that as the future. This is all I want to talk about in this video, but if you do have your own opinions on this, feel free to share them down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.